Hey ladies, welcome to Speak Life Podcast with Lex. I'm so excited that you stopped in. This is a place where we talk about all the things from real life topics to daily struggles and topics that most people don't want to talk about. And before I dive in, I wanted to tell you to like, subscribe, share. It's Speak Life Project _ so that you can keep up with all the things that's going on around here. So today's topic that I'd like to talk about is a saying that most of us have heard probably most of our lives. I know for me personally, I've been hearing this saying since I was a little girl in school, from my parents, from church, from all the people around, that you reap what you sow. And then another way to say it is what goes around comes around. And before I unpack that real quick, there's a reason why we constantly hear it, because it's a principle. It's something that whatever you plant, just like when we it's garden time right now, right? So whenever you have plants and seeds that you put into the ground, you're going to expect that specific thing to sprout up out of the ground as you nurture it, as you water it. But whatever you put in the ground, that thing is going to come out. And so it's the same with life. Whatever you're willing to put in or put out, the seeds that you're sowing or the seeds that you're putting out in that specific subject or situation, that's the very thing that you're going to see come back. And so it's so important because in the Bible, it talks about you will judge them by their fruit, right? Why does it say that? Because you'll eventually see the work that was put in, or the very things that person, you or whoever, the words that you sown in, or the time that you gave, or the very thing that you sown in, whatever you're putting out, that's the very thing that's going to come back. And so that's the fruit. That's the fruit, the evidence of what you've been doing behind the scenes when no one's watching, the very thing that you're doing with your time. And so a lot of times when we hear that, we think about just money. Like, oh, but I'm not only talking about money, because it's the same with that. Whatever you're giving, it has to come back. That's the law. It has to come back. And so I have this clipboard with me, and I'm going to unpack it a little more, but I have this clipboard with me because from one of our get-togethers with Fraps and Friends, I talked about this specific topic, and I felt like the Lord wanted me to talk about it on the podcast. So I was like, all right, I got you. So instead of sitting there typing it up, I have it here on this clipboard. It looks like this, so that I'm able to just, scan through the notes. But this is what it started off with. It says, the life that we want to have, the reputation, doesn't come without sowing. The world will tell you to work harder and longer. Christ says to sow into what you want. You reap what you sow. There's that saying again. You can't have harvest where you have no seed down. So you can't expect a certain thing in your life to take place if you never put seed in that specific ground, if that makes sense. So for example, say that you're like, I don't understand why that person is doing all the things that I always aspired to be, or always aspired to have, or the blessings. Like, that's not fair. How do they get those blessings? But you have no idea what seed they sown prior to the fruit that you're beginning to see in their life. There's so many times in my own personal life where I would have that attitude. I'm like, how did they get to there? They're this age, they're this specific age. How did they get to the place to where they're walking in these certain blessings, or they're doing those specific things on a grander scheme than I wanted to do? How did they get to that place? And the Lord would always say, you don't know what seed they sown before then. You don't know the things that they've been through, the warfare and the things that they had to overcome to get to this place. And so I'm getting somewhere with this, and I'll unpack it more as I go. But it says you can't harvest where you have no seed down. How do I sow in areas that aren't money related? And so this is the part that I wanted to hit on, because it's not only about money. If you are in a place right now where you can't sow financially in different areas or different things, you can give your time. So your time is more valuable than money at the end of the day, because wherever your time is being spent, that's what you hold dear to your heart. That's what you have a value for. And so say that you're like, I don't have the finances right now to be able to serve in a specific area at my church, or to be able to give my time or give my money to a specific cause in a community, but I do have that time. So you can start to sow into a ground through the time that you give. So, okay, I can't give money, but I could sow my time by serving in my local church, by doing what I can to spend time with a friend that needs love. Or maybe this is another part that I want to hit on. You hear so many times women of different ages saying, oh, I'm so lonely. Nobody wants to be my friend. There's nobody that wants to take the time to get to know who I am. And then you ask the person, or you look at that person, and they're the first one out the door whenever something like church, for example, they're the first, they come late, right? So then they almost avoid people purposely. And then they leave early so that they can avoid people even some more. And so what we like to call it is a professional hider. You're a professional hider, but then you get to this place where you're like, I'm lonely, I'm needing friends. But then at the same time, you're not sowing seed in that specific area to begin to reap the benefits, the fruits later on in life. So I always say this, I'm like, if you are lonely, then begin to be a friend or begin to surround yourself with people to sow seed in that ground. And then that thing is going to come back. Next thing you know, people are going to want to be around you and you won't feel that loneliness. If you need friends, which this goes hand in hand. There's so many times people are like, I need friends. Nobody wants to be my friend. What's wrong with me? And then you look at the person again and you see them and they are always so serious. They're unapproachable. You can't even come near them. You're like, if I come near them, are they going to bite my head off? Like, And you have to show yourself friendly. So if you're needing friends, go be friendly to somebody. Go be a helping hand to somebody that's maybe in the corner and they are lonely. You could tell that they have no friends. So go be that friend that you're hoping to have one day. And as you do that, as you take that step to be that person's friend, you're going to sow seed in that specific ground that you're needing. And then eventually that fruit is going to come forth, and then you're going to have those friends. If you need love, that's another one. You're like, I need love. I feel like nobody loves me, or I don't have that love, that genuine love. Go love on somebody. Go sow that seed in that ground. And I hope that through this, you're understanding what I'm saying, that you reap what you sow. So whatever you put in the ground, that's what's going to come back. Another way, not only in friendship and love and all that, but negativity. So if you're that person that's spewing hatred, whatever comes out of your mouth is so negative. You're always negative around people to the point that they're like, yo, I don't want to be around you. But you're like, just wicked and mean. There's like mean people. And I'm saying that because I used to be that person. I was so critical. On one of the sides of my family, they were so critical. They were so like, I'll beat this person, da 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 da. It was so bad. And so I started to talk like that. And I would be angry. And I was just this bitter person that would spew hatred on people to the point that no one wants to be around me. But the things that I was saying to others, eventually those people started to say those things to me. And I'm like, this does not feel good. Another example is when I was younger, I was so angry. I had some issues and things that I had to work on. So because of the anger, I used to take it out on people, and I was a bully. And so with that being a bully, I would use my strength. I would use my height and my words to push people around. And then one day it started happening to me, and I did not like it. But I'm trying to give you an example of how in a negative way, those seeds that you're sowing with your words, with your actions, you're going to begin to see the fruit in the long run. And so I had to take the time to like allow the Lord to show me those things, because I forgot about it. And I'm like, why is this happening? And you reap what you sow. And so I was going through the very things that I sowed a long time ago that I didn't even realize. And I had to repent and go to the Father. And I even repented to those people and told them that I was sorry. And so if that's you, you may be in a situation like that where you're like, I don't understand and I don't know why I'm here. Look at the seeds that you sown prior before coming to where you are today. Like, what have you sown? And it's never too late to make a change, to shift your mindset, shift your life, to be able to make it right. So then it says, a seed has to reproduce to its own nature. Apple trees don't sprout oranges, which is so true. So you can't say, okay, Lord, I know that one day I'm going to be amongst, for example, I'm going to be in the nations, right? I feel like you're calling me to the nations. I'm going to be plowing and helping kids and orphanages and whatever. I'm going to be the next Mother Teresa. I'm just giving you some random example, but say that's your heart. and you're sowing seed in something that's completely different. You're spending your time or your money and your resources on swimming, putting all into that. That thing that you're putting your time, your focus, your money in, it's not going to reproduce, or the harvest isn't going to look like the missions. No, you have to sow that seed in that specific ground to be able to see the harvest in what you're wanting to go towards. And I'll read some takeaways here in a minute that'll help you understand that. So one of the scriptures that I wrote was Genesis 1:11. It says, "Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so." So just like I was talking about, if you're going to want to go to the nation, start in your backyard. Start sowing seed in the people around you. Start pouring into the orphanages and pouring your time, your money, your resources into those things now where you're at, showing God that you're faithful with where you're at. And then the harvest is going to look like you going where you want to go, sowing where you want to go. You already have what you need for your next harvest. It is up to you to sow what God has already given to you. I'm going to read that again. You already have what you need for your next harvest, right? It's up to you to sow what God has already given to you. So it's already on the inside. And I know we always hear that like, oh, but are you doing it? Are you comprehending it? And so that's what these chats are about. I'm like, I want you to understand, as a daughter of the King, our authority and the different things that we can do to be able to reap the benefits of what God is telling us in the word, to be able to reap the favor and the blessings and the different things. So then in 2 Corinthians 9:10, it says, "This generous God who supplies abundant seed for the farmer, which becomes bread for our meals, is even more extravagant toward you. First, he supplies every need plus more." He supplies every need plus more. "Then he multiplies the seed as you sow it, so that the harvest of your generosity will grow." So not only does he, as you step out to sow, right, in a specific area, especially when you're being obedient to what he's asking you to do, even if you don't understand, you're like, all right, Lord, I'm going to do this. When you begin to do that, he multiplies the seed. He takes care of the need and then more. Like, he's an extravagant God. And so if we can grasp this, I'm telling you, it'll change the trajectory of your life. You'll see blessings upon blessings. And I'm not only talking about money, because I know people get weird with that topic, which we're going to talk about that too eventually, because like I said, I like to talk about topics that most people don't want to cover. And so let's go there. But right now we're not going to go there. So not only financially, but also in different areas of your life. Like I said, with time, with your children, with the people in relationships, through different areas of health. You know, those are very valuable, costly things that we hold dear to our heart, or that we should. And if we can begin to sow seed in those areas, then we'll begin to see a huge, extravagant blessing in our lives. Peace, that's another thing. So then it says, here's some key points. There is no harvest without seed time. There's no harvest without seed time. So we know that when you plant a seed in the ground, so say we're going to plant some peas or something, right? So we take that seed and you got to start to have it become a seedling, right? So you put it in the little cardboard pot holder, you water it, you put it in the sun, you're making sure that it's not getting dried out, that bugs aren't eating it. Next thing you know, you see a little sprout coming up. And this is fresh in my mind because my boys and I, we have been trying to plant some different peas and chamomile and different things. And it's so exciting when I see my boys, whenever they see the little seedling crack open and pop out of the soil, they get so excited. And then they're like, Mom, where's the peas? And I'm like, boys, it's going to take some time for that seed and that plant to begin to develop into the full plant that it's supposed to be. And before we see the harvest of the peas. And so they're like, oh man, it's going to take forever. And I said, it seems like it's going to take forever, but day by day, as we water it, as we tend to it, as we make sure it's getting sun and we make sure the bugs aren't eating it, next thing you know, over time, we're going to look back and it's going to be there before you know it. And so they're like, okay, Mom, we trust you. And so as I was saying these things, the Lord showed me a picture. He began to paint a picture that that's what it looks like. You reap what you sow. So as we're tending to the seeds, to the things that we're putting into the ground, to the things that we're wanting, that we're contending for our families in different areas, we're not going to see that thing take place right away. So you can't expect to do something right away and then say, okay, tomorrow, is it going to be here? No, it's going to take some time. But as you begin to trust in the Lord and begin to lean on him and begin to know that all the plans of your life is in his hands, you're going to look back, and before you know it, it'll be there. The time will be there, and you'll begin to walk in the fruit, walk in the harvest and all the things that you planted a while ago. But as you keep your focus on him, I'm telling you, girl, from experience, when you keep your focus on him, it's as if, like, it may seem like a long time, but you'll look back and be like, man, it was worth it. It was worth every minute. It was worth every thing that I've been through to be able to nurture that seed and see it come to harvest now. And it's always in the right time. Harvest time is always in the right time. So then it said, a life without sowing has no future. Why? Because if you're not sowing seed, then there's nothing that's going to pop up. There's no fruit that's going to come from it. So that's important, that you have to sow. You have to put yourself out there. You have to put your time, your money, your resources out there to be able to see a harvest. A seed sown is a future known. So if you know where you're putting your seed down, and hopefully through this conversation, it begins to get you to think, if you know where you're putting your seed and you're being intentional with that, then that's going to be a future known. Because you're like, okay, I know where I'm putting my seed down. So that means eventually this very area has to come forth. Harvest time, it has to come forth. The fruit is going to come from it. So you're plowing, you're digging now, you're putting in the hard work, and it's going to show for it in the future. Another thing that I like to say to relate to this is, a lot of times, say that you have people that are trying to backbite you, that are trying to drag your name in the mud, that are trying to come against your character. There's been times that happened, and I wanted to put them on blast. I wanted to put it on Facebook. I wanted to try to defend myself. Like, who do you think you're talking about? This is what they did. I got evidence. But then the Lord's like, no, first of all, vengeance is mine. Second of all, they will know you by your fruit. So you don't even have to speak a word. And so I would let time go by. And sure enough, people would be like, that's against your character. It doesn't even sound like you. Or stuff that those people that were trying to get me and my husband and my family that were trying to target us, eventually their fruit was known. And you could tell that they were flighty and that they were bitter and they had, brokenness. And so that's another way to realize that the fruit of someone's life is evident to the seed that was sown in their life in the quiet time. So a seed sown is a future known. Sow where you want to go. So if you want to go to the nations, if you're wanting to be the next, I'm trying to think of an example. If you're trying to be the next Lisa Bevere or whatever, sow where you want to go. So begin to sow and surround yourself with people that's doing the thing that you want to do. Help them, put the time in with them. Begin to sow or do what you can to help their dream come true. And then in the end, you're sowing seed for that specific thing. Obviously, if God is wanting you to do that, don't just be doing it just to do it, because you won't see fruit from that. But if it's something that the Lord is wanting you to do and you begin to sow where you want to go, then you're going to see that come forward or to fruition in the long run, in the long game. Sow where you want to go. Number 5 is harvest is responsive to seed time. And then number 6, he is the Lord of the harvest. We're responsible for the seed. So I could talk to you until I'm blue in the face. I could talk to you all day long about this. But at the end of the day, like it says here, he is the Lord of the harvest and we're responsible for the seed. So I can't make you do it. God can't make you do it. It's going to come down to you making a decision that, hey, this is what I'm wanting. This is where I want to go. I want to know that my future is in your hands. So I'm going to sow where you tell me to sow. But it's all up to you on what you're sowing. And that's the very thing that you're going to reap. So I hope that this encouraged you to be able to be intentional with what the Lord is wanting you to do in your life through your seed and through your time and through your finances and your resources. And I keep saying those 3 things because those are the very things that cover all the bases. I'm trying to cover all the bases. And through this conversation, I hope that it plants the seeds in your heart and in your mind to be able to dig deeper with the Lord, ask him what he's wanting you to do, and then have him reveal things in your life, maybe bad seeds that you've sown that you knew that you were in the wrong. Like, ask him to show you those things, make it right with him, and begin to sow in fertile ground and sow where you want to go. So I love you all. I'm about to pray us out. And yeah. So Lord, I just pray for each and every girl that's on here. I pray that through this conversation about seed, Lord, I just pray that a seed would be planted in their heart and in their mind of all that you're wanting them to do, Lord, in their life. I pray that you would, as they're figuring out the places and the fertile grounds and the places to sow, I pray that you would help them to make the right decisions and what to sow in. I pray that they would also be intentional with the words that they're speaking, with the time that they're spending with the specific people, whether it's good people or bad people. I pray that you would route them to the ones that's supposed to be in their life, Lord. And I just pray that they would be able to sow where they want to go, that they would know that if I sow here, this is going to be the fruit from it. And I pray that it would be evident fruit that comes from you, that comes from the word, that comes from spending time in your presence. And I thank you for all of them. I thank you for all of this. And I pray that they all have a great week. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys have a great week, and I will catch you next time. Remember to speak life always. Bye.